What's up guys, welcome back to another video. I'm with my nephew here, Keith.
Hello.
So he just got his first new car. So tell me about what kind of car this is and what are we doing today?
This is a 17 Audi A3 and we're gonna be doing my lowering springs today.
He asked me to help him. He's never really wrenched anything on the car before. I also get a lot of YouTube comments asking where I even learned to do all this stuff, and honestly everything's all YouTube. I'm gonna show you guys how easy it is or simple it is with just a few simple tools, and you'll be able to even swap out the suspension yourself. So I'm gonna be teaching Keith, and he's been into cars, his brother's into cars, his dad is into cars, so our life is all revolved around cars. So I understand that he wants to play around with his cars, make it look nicer, and tastefully mod it. But yeah, so let me just show you what we're gonna be doing. So we have the new speed lowering springs. And a good thing about this is that this is used, so somebody already put it on the OEM shocks, so we don't have to compress the springs to install it. So it's a little more simpler job for us now. So all we gotta do is just basically swap it. The first thing we're gonna do is pretty much to jack up the car, take off the wheels. I'm gonna show you step by step how I teach Keith on installing that. So right now he's just removing the lug nut covers. I think we're gonna start off with the front first and kind of show you how much of a gap this is on a factory ride height. So as you can see right now, it's really bad. It looks like it's on truck mode right now. It's like you can really put like a 4-finger gap on the rear, about the same amount on the front. And just to give you an idea of how it looks overall, let's just see. Oh yeah, someone just hit him in the back. He just literally got this car maybe a few weeks ago. He's gonna get that fixed and repaired soon. But yeah, this is what it looks like with the factory shocks. It's not too bad, but I think once it lowers, it's gonna look so much better. Well, this is my first time doing any kind of work on a German car, so I know there's a lot more specific details that you had to remove, more bolts and nuts that you had to remove to install certain stuff. So in order to get access to the bolts for the front shocks, it's right under this plastic cowl right here. And so as you can see, Keith already moved this. There should be 3, 1 here, 2 here, and there should be another one right behind it. Well, that is the only thing that you got to do to get access to the bolts on the top, which I guess is not that hard. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I know BMWs, like, you remove anything, then you have to remove like the entire engine or something. All right, so Keith got the car jacked up. He's removing the front wheel, and we're going to be starting on this one. So we got the jack stand. Now we're gonna, for extra precaution, like I like to put wheels under the car and slide it under the car. That's just in case this fails, and that's in case if this fails, then it'll just be on the wheel itself. We're going to loosen up all the bolts first. And so we have those bolts that we already mentioned how to remove, and we're gonna be removing this. We have a bolt right here. These are the end links. Yeah, okay, so that goes right there. And the other one
on that side.
Okay,
so you
gotcha.
hold it with this.
Yep, all right, so I don't really need to explain to you. You already know how to remove it.
It's just need another pair of hands.
Yeah, it's always good to have an extra pair of hands to help you out. Some bolts can be really tricky. All right, so Keith, obviously I haven't taught you anything on how to remove it. Tell me, where did you learn how to do most of this yourself?
YouTube.
Exactly, YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that teaches you step by step on how to remove them. So anything that you do to the car, I will always recommend searching online to see if there's any kind of information or tips or tricks on removing or swapping out the suspension. That really helps. So that way you get an idea of what kind of job it is. You can see yourself if you can do it or not, and then you can just bring it to your shop if you don't think that you can do it, or if you don't have the tools for it. We racked up all these tools from many years, so we pretty much have all the basic necessities: sockets, wrenches, breaker bar. That's pretty much it.
Any 14mm triple squares. So I had to buy one off a Snap-on truck. This one thing costs $40 stupid dollars.
It's Snap-on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Snap-on is like the Bentley of the tools. They're really, really top notch. Some tools can be really expensive, but I mean, I see it more as an investment, because tools, I use shitty tools from the past, and you can see this socket right here. It's not good quality. I know this is probably from like AutoZone or something, right? Yeah, I used those kind of tools when I first started out. It worked fine for like simple jobs like taking out tail lights or headlights, but when you're doing more heavier stuff like suspension swap, those bolts are very, very tight in there and could be rusted on depending on where you live. So when I tried to use the one from AutoZone, it didn't work so well, and I ended up buying an even better set, and that lasted me so many years. What we got to do now is pretty much try to remove these bolts, this one right here, and this one's connected to the end link. So we already got this bolt out, and now we're going to be removing this, and I figured before we start taking out everything, we're just gonna spray this down with PB Blaster, and so later on this will be easier to slide out.
Which one?
So you just want to spray that inside. Yeah, you want to just let it sit there, and the PB Blaster will slowly seep in there, making everything more lubricant enough for this to slide out later. So just loosen it up, but not take it out yet. For this end link, you have to get this T30 bit right here into this bolt, and using a wrench holding on to the nut, so you do a clockwise turn, and then the bolt will loosen up.
A few moments later.
Okay, so that took a little bit more than we anticipated, and I knew some way or another it's gonna be a little bit problematic. I knew with German cars it's gonna be a little bit more involved. So as you can see, it's a whole lot of mess right now, and let me show you what we actually did. So we have the strut, the splitter, the wedged it in there. This can be separated, and we put a lot of PB Blaster in there, and because of the OEM shocks, it sits taller, so it's really hard to remove this out. What we ended up having to do is that we had to remove the axle nut, separate the axle. We also had to remove the lower control arm, and then we just pretty much push it to the side, and then we use a hammer to knock it out. So yeah, pain in the ass, but we got it out. And let us show you the difference between the OEM and the lowering shock. So on the right here is the OEM that we just pulled out, and this is the OEM shocks as well, but we have the lowering springs. So as you can see, not sure if you can really see the difference right now, but as you can see, the spring, this is a lot more compressed here, which is this one has more gap, I guess. So we're gonna try to figure out which one goes to the right, and if this is the matching part for the front, which I think,
yeah, it is.
Yep. So everything lines up. The two bolts up here, same exact thing. The end link bolts is right here, same part number, so OEM spec. And so yeah, we're just gonna put in the new one with the lowering springs on, and this should be for the other side. Everything's in, it's all tightened up. Now we're gonna lower the car and see if there's any big difference. All right, let's remove all those. Moment of truth. All right, Keith, let's see how much it's gonna drop. Well, there's still like it's a less finger gap, maybe like 3 now, but I think it's you just have to let it settle. And also because all the tires, we haven't changed it out yet, so I think once we put all the new springs in, it'll even out and it'll sit more properly. So right now it just looks off because none of the side is done yet. All right, so let's start buttoning up all the others, the last 3, and this took like 2 hours. This is our first time doing it, but the second side we should do that a lot quicker now that we know what to do. Tell us what we have done so far.
Springs on.
All right, so we got the second fronts on. Now we're gonna lower it, see how much. Damn. All right, Keith.
I didn't mean to do it like that.
It's definitely lower. Before I can only put like a good 4 finger gap. Now it's like a 2. I mean, we just literally just lowered it, so it's gonna settle down a little bit more. And I think, yeah, passenger side definitely lower too. Hopefully once we settle with the back, maybe it'll be a little bit more even throughout, but I can already tell this looks so much better. Big difference, huge difference. It looks definitely sits better. Wow. I think now it's like a 5 finger gap, so I think like once we lower the rear, everything's gonna sit more lower, I guess. So it definitely raised up the rear a little bit more. So all right, now we're gonna get started with the rear. What time is it, Keith? Can you check the time?
4:30, I think.
I got here at 10:30 in the morning. We kind of got started around 11, so it took us a good amount of hours just on the fronts, but I know the rears is going to be a lot easier. I knew the fronts was going to be harder, so I just wanted to get that done first out of the way. The rears should be significantly a lot easier. So Keith bought these OEM used setup with the lowering springs already in the front shocks already. The rear is not a true coilover setup. I think this just sits on the spring bucket. Let me confirm if that is right. Yep. The good thing is we're not doing a coilover install, so we're just doing a spring install. So we're just gonna be swapping out the springs. We don't need to change out the shocks because it is already OEM anyways. We might need to use the jack, so we're gonna have to put a jack stand underneath it so we can use the jack to raise this bucket up later. This is the OEM shocks, which we're not replacing because this is not a true coilover setup that he got. It's just a lowering spring, so all we need to do is just replace that spring with that lowering. We do have to remove these two so that a spring bucket can be pushed down so that the spring can slide out. So yeah, let's try to get those bolts out. And as well, we have to remove the bolt for the end link. And now we lowered it. And now we have some room to take out the old spring. Okay. Do a little comparison of the OEM spring and the lowering springs. As you can see, it is a lot shorter. So we'll just sit that down. The rear springs are on. Now we're gonna lower the car. I'm pretty sure it's still gonna sit a little higher because we haven't done the last side yet. Yeah, once we do the other side, it's gonna even out.
Eventually.
The last wheel finally done. All right, Keith, let's drop it. Okay, all right. I think it just needs to settle in a little bit. We're gonna go for a drive. Let's see how this wheel looks. Yeah, I think it needs to settle. We're gonna take it out for a spin, but first we're gonna clean up this mess, do a little photo shoot for this car, and see how this looks. I think it's gonna settle in for like maybe an inch or more. Literally, we just lowered the rear, so it's gonna look a lot better. So we're on the road and we're just trying to see if there's any sound. And we did hear a sound earlier. It was the end link that we didn't tighten up all those. So we went back home, we tightened it up. Now there's absolutely no sounds, no clinks, no rattles. First impression, how do you feel?
A lot more bumpy and a lot stiffer, definitely. But it feels good. It's like a comfortable but planted feeling.
Yeah, so obviously with the lowering springs, the stiffness is a lot harder than OEM, so you're definitely going to be feeling more bumps, but as far as driving, it's going to be a lot more sportier. The handling is definitely going to be a little bit better than OEM for sure. So yeah, we just did that sharp turn. Feels really good. We went out for a drive for a little bit, and right immediately when we reversed, like the rear end just like dropped. Woo! Man, look at that. All right. Okay, you got the burbles. How do you like it?
A lot better than before when it was a monster truck.
So we just drove it out here for like a good maybe 30 minutes. And you can see the rear has settled down. It's like 1 finger gap now, actually. 1 finger gap in the rear. The front, barely 2. No more monster truck look. Front could add a little bit of spacer just to bring out, just to get it more flush. But yeah, you definitely got a lot of space in there. So yeah, it's like 7 o'clock right now. We got the golden hour. Perfect time for a photo shoot. Yeah, it looks clean. I didn't think I would like black cars because they're just so hard to maintain, but if you keep washing every day, it'll look good. Look at this view right here. Look at this. Look at the way it captures with the sunset. It looks so good. Got some good power to this car. What do you think? How do you like it?
A lot better. A lot better.
yeah, the car looks good. It feels good. All right, guys, so that is it for today's video. I think I taught Keith a little bit on how to change parts on his cars. He did actually really well. He actually researched ahead of time on YouTube, so he already kind of knew like what to expect. If you're able to do a suspension swap, you can pretty much like do anything on the car, because downpipes, exhaust, intakes, all that stuff. So I feel like the suspension would take the most amount of time and a lot of patience. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoy this video, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace out, guys.
Bye.